Hi, everybody. Andrew Champagne here alongside JD Fox for this week's edition of Champagne and JD. We're continuing our series interviewing track announcers, sitting down with them each week. And it probably isn't fair to call this week's guest just a track announcer. I feel like that's selling him short. JD, you know what I'm going to do? He needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway because that's just the kind of guy I am. Perhaps the more appropriate title would be one-man marketing machine when it comes to Delta Downs. He is preparing for the start of a winter meeting down there in Vinton, Louisiana. A lot of changes coming up that we're going to get to, but we are so happy to have Don Stevens with us this week. Don, thanks for stopping by.
Well, thanks for having me on. This is great. I love it.
That's our pleasure, man. Really, we are not exaggerating. This guy does a lot down there at Delta Downs. He's been instrumental in a lot of their bigger efforts, and we're looking forward to getting a chance to chat with him. Going right into it, we're diving straight in. We're not much for bunking, messing around on this show unless it's us doing the messing around. How did it all start for you as far as, hey, wait a minute, I could actually be a track announcer. I could do this. What was the draw for you, and how did you get your foot in the door?
Well, I mean, you have to go way back to when I was a kid. I was back in the 70s, kind of giving away my age, but I would run around with the little microphone and the little tape recorder, and I would act like I was calling the last second of an NBA final or the Super Bowl as the clock winds down or something. So I always wanted to do sports broadcasting and things like that. Got out of high school, didn't really know what I wanted to do, moved back to Oklahoma. I had lived in the Seattle area, graduated high school, and lived out there for about 10 years when I was a kid. Got back to Oklahoma, and I was a big racing fan because I went to Long Acres, a defunct track in Renton, Washington. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
I have drinking glasses from there. Thank you, Jason.
There you go. Yep, Long Acres was great. One of the most picturesque tracks in the country with Mount Rainier off in the distance and all that. But I went to my first race there in 1977 with my mother. Her and I would do a lot of things together. My dad worked a lot. We decided we would go watch a horse race in 1977 at Long Acres because we saw it in the newspaper and on TV and the Kentucky Derby and all that. Walked in the door, picked up a program, had no idea what we were doing. We bet on a horse that was wearing blue silks, a jockey wearing blue silks, not the horse. And we won, and we thought, oh, this is easy. We can pick a winner, I spent the last, 40 some years proving that's not true. But anyway, we all know that. But anyway, so we moved from Seattle back to Oklahoma. It was 1982. There was no horse racing tracks in Oklahoma, not pari-mutuel at the time. 1984, they legalized pari-mutuel wagering in Oklahoma, and the first track was Blue Ribbon Downs. Have you ever been there?
They can't say no.
It's a little track on the border of Arkansas in far eastern Oklahoma. And I went over, we would go over there and watch the races. We'd go over there for the simulcast of Kentucky Derby. And I watched the 1988 Winning Colors Kentucky Derby over there and all that with some friends. And so we did all that throughout the 80s. In 1988, my wish came true because I live near Oklahoma City and they opened Remington Park. So, and it opened on my birthday, September 1st, 1988. So if that
Happy
wasn't
birthday.
an omen, right? Yeah, there you go. So I became a big fan of the track and went out there all the time, of course, in my spare time. Knew Jim Byers, you know him, the announcer at Lone Star now, was at Remington for many years. And in the early 90s, I decided to go to sports broadcasting school because I thought, I'm going to do this because I was working at Hertz Rent-A-Car. I'd actually been a national sales rep for them for 11 years. Just a job, you know what I mean? I was in a building, I couldn't look out. I was calling people on the phone. It was like, do I really want to do this my whole life? So I went to sports broadcasting school and met Jim Byers. I knew him very well because he did the Fox show, and I'm a big racing fan. So we came break time one day when he came down to be a guest speaker, and everybody else was into football, basketball, baseball. I loved horse racing. So I went down and struck up a conversation, and he said, hey, why don't you come out to the track? I'll give you a media pass. You come up to the press box, maybe learn how to call races. And I said, okay, great. So a few months went by, actually, and I didn't take him up on it. And I was sitting at work one day going, what am I doing here? So I said, I'm going to call Jim. So I called Jim. He said, okay, I'll leave a pass downstairs. I went out there. This was 1994. And he got me up to the press box. And I started going up on weekends and took my binoculars and tried to call a race out on the roof. And I sounded like an idiot, like we all do when we start out calling horse races. But Jim was so nice. He is one of the most professional guys I ever met. He would actually record each race from his announcer's booth. He had a TV and a VCR, the old VCRs. And he would record the race. I would call mine on my little mini tape recorder in my pocket, go into his booth between races, and he didn't have to do a show like I did. He just called the races, and he had some time off like the old announcers did. And he would actually turn down the volume on his TV and play the videotape, and then we would sync it up with my tape recorder. and he would listen to my call and critique it. So I got an actual education from an announcer for about a year and a half. And then they offered me a job as a chart caller there and his backup announcer. And I went to work there a year or two later for Remington Park doing that. Eventually became the backup announcer and assistant media relations director. And then eventually in the late 90s, Jim left to do minor league baseball and hockey, and I got the job. So that's how I got the job at Remington Park. And in 2003, I got the job at Delta Downs because they had recently gotten a casino. They were going to have $1 million race called the Jackpot, and I saw a big opportunity. So I moved my family to Louisiana, which they culture shock. They'd never been here before. You know, my wife's from Ohio. She's a meat and potatoes girl. She came down here and you got gumbo and crawfish and all this kind of stuff. She still doesn't eat it, by the way. Anyway, so we moved here in 2003, and that's how I ended up at Delta Downs. I know that was a little long. Sorry. But,
no, absolutely. That was really fascinating. And you see a whole lot of different career paths for people in all walks of life at the racetrack. Bobby Frankel used to say he picked up horse racing training because he needed to support his gambling habit. You know,
Exactly.
Announcers get into it in a whole bunch of different ways, just like everybody else, jockeys, trainers, owners for sure. So that's probably my favorite part of this series so far, is being able to say, okay, tell us your origin story. What drew you to the game? And that is what I think is going to get people in the door. The fact that, hey, you can get in this sport in so many different ways, and it's so easy to see the great parts of this game, Don.
It really, really is.
Yeah, and what's funny about that is obviously you talked about broadcasting and then media relations, and obviously that holds especially true for myself and Andrew, because those were our career paths.
Right.
We went to college for broadcasting. We ended up doing media relations as a way to continue broadcasting because full-time broadcasting jobs started to dry up in the early 2000s, and that's what we did, and you know. And we forged our own paths, and obviously have had a love of horse racing all throughout our time doing this podcast and well before it, obviously. So, you mentioned, getting kind of an education and being able to learn and hone the craft over time. Did you ever hold on to those tapes and ever go back and listen, or are those things you just want to keep out of your mind?
No, I've got them. They're buried deep in a box in my closet somewhere. I haven't drug them out for years, but I can still hear them in my head because I'm the type of person to go over them and over them and over them. And in fact, when I would drive home, it would take me about a half hour to get from Remington Park to my home, which is just outside of Oklahoma City, when I was practicing on the roof. And I would just turn off the radio and sit in my car, and I would practice call imaginary races to myself out loud. And when I pull up to a stop light, people would probably look at me and think I was crazy because we really didn't have, wireless handheld phones and all this stuff back then. And I would be calling out a race, and, here they come around the turn, so-and-so making up ground on the outside, blah, blah, blah. And, I would go over it and over it and over it, because you have to have those neural pathways in your brain to be an announcer, because as you're calling a race, you have to be able to have a library of things to say at different points of the race and when unexpected things happen. And that just comes with time and repetition. And I think now I've called about 30,000 races in my career. So, you get those pathways worked out. I haven't called a thoroughbred race for 9 months, though, because we ended back on February 29th, and we're not starting here until next week. So it's been a little while, but it's kind of like a bike. You just climb back on and ride.
What do you think was the most important lesson you learned when you started out, when you were shadowing Jim Byers, when you were doing that stuff on the roof, when you were driving home looking like a maniac to your fellow drivers in Oklahoma? What was one of the major things that you learned that stuck with you all this time?
Well, I think it's the same as with broadcasting, and I tend to get hyped up and excited about stuff, and you have to slow it down. You got to realize that people aren't really hearing things like you're hearing it in your brain. I'm thinking every thought I have to spit out as fast as I think it. You don't have to do that. You can take a breath, you can slow down, you can pronunciate, and you can get it out calmly. Now, when the race calls for it, you got to pick it up, got to go a little faster, got to raise your voice. But really to start out lower, because if you start out a horse race, especially in a route race, a mile and a 16th, mile and an eighth, if you're already up here doing this in the first eighth of a mile, where are you going to go? You're going to be, exactly. You're going to take a nosedive. So you better start out calm, cool, and collected, and work your way up. And then in the stretch, you can hit those high points. So I think that's the most important thing.
You mentioned not calling a thoroughbred race for a while. Obviously, you had quarter horse season last at Delta Downs. How is that transition for you? Because they're obviously a lot different calling a quarter horse race versus calling a thoroughbred affair.
Yeah, very much so. Jim Byers, my mentor, and again, the dear friend of mine and the professional he is, I can only aspire to be as good as him someday. Anyway, he described it best to me when he said quarter horse racing is like it's one dimensional. You know, you have speed, you get out of the gate, you call it 18 seconds, it's done. You just want to be, what he said, efficient with your words. Because if you get too wordy, you're not going to get it in 18 seconds. So hit the high points, hit the trouble, give me the leader, give me the top three, and wrap it up. That's about all you can do. With a thoroughbred race, it's kind of like a story or a novel. You know, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you have to build up to each one, you know. So it'll take a little adjustment getting back to the thoroughbreds for me again. Our first race next Tuesday, in fact, is at 1 mile and a 16th. So I'm like, geez, guys, will you give me a 5 furlong or something? You know, they throw out 1 mile and a 16th. I got to talk for almost 2 minutes, you know, but it'll be a blast. I'm going to enjoy it.
It could be worse. They could give you one that's 1 mile and 5/8 around 3 turns. It could be a heck of a lot worse. Just remember.
And we do that at the end of the year usually. Yep. Yeah.
And I hope the racing secretary's not watching and getting any ideas.
He has got a card at 2.5 furlong race here in the first week or two. Yep. I heard, so that'll be fun. Yeah. 550 quarter horse people.
Kidding aside, and we do kid a lot on this show. We have a lot of fun, and that's one of the reasons that we do this show. However, one of the big stories at Delta Downs comes from a pretty unfortunate source, that being Mother Nature. Hurricane Laura was very unkind to Delta Downs this past summer. Don, you tweeted a couple of photos that maybe we can get up on the screen at some point, just showing some of the damage that Delta Downs took. Take us through those few days and the aftermath from your perspective, because as if COVID wasn't bad enough, here comes a major hurricane blowing through the Gulf Coast.
Yeah, absolutely. That happened August the 27th. My wife and I and my family, I have kids and grandkids that live here in the Lake Charles area. We all evacuated. We left on Wednesday. I think the storm hit on Thursday night. We came home on Friday. We went to Mississippi, actually out of the path of the storm, stayed in a hotel for 2 nights. But yeah, it was a Cat 4 storm. It went right over Lake Charles. If you're not familiar with the area, Delta Downs is west of here, right on the border of Texas, only 4 miles from the border of Texas. We're about 25, 30 miles in Lake Charles. The eye went over here. So Delta was technically just west of the eye. It wasn't quite as bad, but it did a lot of damage to the track. The TV towers were destroyed. The tote board was obliterated. It was gone. There's some damage to the holding barn roof, but the other 22 barns held up well. They were built after Hurricane Rita, a Cat 3 storm that came here in 2005, just 2 years after I got here. And back then we had the original wooden barns, so they were demolished. They had to be rebuilt after 05, and we missed a complete thoroughbred season. We didn't race from 1 year to the next for thoroughbreds, so that was a tough one as well. The part of the hotel at the track, the roof was blown off, or muster wood was blown off, and we had water pour down 10 floors, so they're still working on that. The new part of the hotel is open. The casino roof had damage, and in fact, I was told, I wasn't there, that you could see through blue sky several days after the storm, and there was water just poured in. They opened slot machines and water poured out. I mean, they had to come in and put new carpet, new machines, dry everything out. I mean, they worked like busy beavers for 2 or 3 weeks afterwards to get the casino up, because that's the main moneymaker there, obviously. But the track's been, redone. They had to do a lot of work to the surface. Obviously, had to take it off because there's so much debris in it. Built a new tote board. Actually, you may have seen it on my Twitter account. It's like a big stadium digital, beautiful tote board that you're going to see next week when we open up. They built brand new TV towers, and we got a brand new starting gate. I was there this morning. I mean, even had that new starting gate smell, So we had that. We have the other starting gate that one of them was destroyed, and the other one had to be refurbished. So we're going to have a brand new one, a refurbished one. It's going to be nice, but I hate that we had to do it this way to get all that new stuff. But if we're going to be fresh, we're going to be new. And I understand we're going to have maybe a digital clear signal coming up in the near future. Maybe not right away, but we're really upgrading the TV equipment too in the near future. So that'll be good.
I know JD and I both really like that. We're both video geeks, so woohoo!
Yeah.
Bells and whistles. I'm fans of bells and whistles.
And shiny objects too. Let's not forget those.
Shiny objects. Yeah. Look over here, the shiny objects.
Yeah. Obviously, the big difference there, and everybody thinks of Delta Downs, and we think of playing Delta Downs. Obviously, you think of it. The race is happening at night, and we've seem the transition needed. Your first card on Tuesday is going to be a daytime card, and obviously it's going to be a ways out for lights to get reinstalled at the track. So, obviously talk a little bit about that and the shift from daytime to nighttime racing. And then I think secondarily, talk about how that's changed your day. We touched on it very briefly, but you have a lot of things you do at the track, not just call the races.
Right. I actually work year round, which I'm very fortunate. Most announcers don't get to work year round. So I have a year round salary job with benefits and vacation and 401k and all that. Boyd Gaming has been tremendous to me over the 17 plus years that I've been here. But yeah, we've always been a nighttime track. We race during the day for things like Jackpot Day and stuff like that. Occasionally, the Tuesday and Wednesday before Thanksgiving, traditionally we race during the day, but it's very rare. The biggest difference for me as an announcer is this track, unlike a lot of tracks in the country, it faces south. So when I look out my window to the south, the sun is setting in the west to southwest, at least in the summer, kind of behind me in the winter. But when that happens, those infield lakes are like mirrors. Oh. So when that sun comes down, it bounces off the lake in my eyes. And when they go around the turn, the near turn or the clubhouse turn, whatever you want to call it, sometimes I'm just blinded. You can't see it for a few seconds. And that's where calling 30,000 races comes in handy, because you just kind of fill in the spots and make it up, No, I mean, you just have to do the best you can do. You let the camera be your eyes, and you just make it until you can see the horses a little bit better when they're on the backstretch. But that's going to be the biggest adjustment for me, is the light and the sun coming in. Other than that, it's going to be getting up earlier in the day for me. That's going to be a big difference, because on race days before, I could get home at 11 o'clock or midnight, and I could sleep till 8 or 9, get up, kiss my wife goodbye. She goes to work. I lay in bed till about 9. Then I get up and start handicapping. Do everything I have to do at home, post social media from my home computer, do all that. And then around 1 or 2 o'clock, take a shower and head into the track and start racing around 5 or 6, and then get off about 10, 11 at night. So it's a long day, but it's a little different. Now I'm going to have to, and I haven't done this yet because we haven't started racing till next Tuesday, but I'm figuring I'll get into the track about 8 o'clock. I'll have to handicap probably the next day's races. I usually do them a day ahead. I'm riding the morning line now at Delta Downs. So there's another duty that I'm doing. But anyway, going to have to do that. That takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours of my time. We're only running 9 races this season to start, so that helps a little bit. We usually run 10 in the past. And then about 11:55, 12 o'clock, I'm going to get changes and overweights. And then we start the broadcast show, basically. I give that to the TV department. We go on air about 30 minutes before the first race, which will be at 12:55. So I'll go on about 12:25. And then we'll start racing. And right now our last race is scheduled for 4:35 p.m. On those daytime race cards. And then we'll get up the next day and do it all again. But we'll race Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this season. And on Fridays, that'll be my non-race day, work day, when I go in and I'll do a morning line, I'll do handicapping, I'll do social media. I'll probably go in the morning, take pictures and videos and interviews of jockeys and trainers. I mean, I've always got something to do, believe me.
Like I said, one-man marketing machine. One thing I will say, it is very brave of you to out yourself as the morning line man.
I know. I was afraid to say it.
The horse racing community is very kind to morning line
I know. I'm going to get a lot of grief, I'm sure. Hey, at this track, as long as you know, start the race off, find Carl Broberg and put 3 to 5, and then you're off to the races. That's all you got to do.
If he has multiple horses, you make it 2 to 5. Yeah, for
there
sure.
You go. That's right.
On that note, and in that vein, talk to us a little bit about some of the prominent faces that you're expecting at Delta this season. I know there's a couple of new riders that you've been spotlighting on your social media. Tell us a little bit about things that we should be excited for this meet.
Well, everybody's excited for the riders, their favorites, and the ones that are there every year. And, of course, those include Gerard Melanson. By the way, he's only 50-some-odd wins away from 5,000 for his career. So he's moving up the list.
Get the big poster ready.
Yeah, well, we'll have the poster ready. Don't worry about that. G Money, and I like nicknames. All the jockeys have nicknames. He's G Money, and so we hope he gets that this season, and we think he will. As long as he stays safe. You got Tim Thornton, who's won 2 straight riding titles, and he'll be going for. Yeah, Moneybags. You know all the names, don't you? Anyway, Tim Moneybags Thornton, he'll be the odds-on favorite, I'll say, to win the jockey title for a 3rd straight year. But we have some new guns in town, like Rye Eccleberry. I used to call him Eichelberry, but I met him and he said no, it's pronounced Eccleberry. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Anyway, he's won several riding titles at Canterbury, Minnesota. He's won 18 titles overall, 12 thoroughbreds, 6 quarter horse. He comes off a title up at Canterbury, Minnesota. Very bright young man. I say young. He's got a wife and I think 2 daughters. I think he's in his early 30s. Super nice guy. Check out my Horseman Don YouTube channel. You can watch a interview with him. You got Ty Kennedy, Bow Tie, that's his nickname. He was here last year for the first time, and he's come back. Now, he said he'll probably be leaving in January to ride at Sam Houston, but another bright, very sharp young man who Delta Downs fans may not be that used to, but he was here last year, really impressed us, and he did well at Evangeline this summer. Jose Leone, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's ridden out at, I think, out west. He said he rode at Santa Anita a little bit. He's only 21 years old. Very young, from Puerto Rico. We have a lot of Puerto Rican riders this season, so that's going to be interesting. A lot of young guys just coming up. So those are some names to keep an eye on. Of course, you have Diego Sainz. You know his nickname? The Grasshopper, right? I mean, come on. That's Diego Sainz, and you've got other guys like Kevin Smith. We call him K. Smith. So we've got a lot of guys there that really – the ones coming back know the track really well. The new ones kind of have to get used to it. It is a bull ring, if you will, 6 furlongs. But the turn's a little tighter than some bull rings. I had a jockey mention that to me the other day. They're like, it's small, but the turns are still wide. And I go, yeah, that's good. But here you have to set up your race on the back stretch. You can't wait to get in the stretch to get into your horse and start making a move. You have to be positioned into the turn, hopefully not to, cover a lot of ground. Hopefully you're near the rail somewhere. If you are out wide, you're going to have plenty of horse to sweep by. But it's definitely a track that takes some getting used to, and these jockeys will just have to figure it out. The new ones will, and the old ones will have a little advantage, I would say, early in the season.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I'm glad you mentioned you don't want to leave yourself too much ground to make up. Having been in a position many times where I've needed a closer to come pick up the pieces, many times it's been a situation where if there's 2 or 3 more strides, maybe they get there. Yeah. But you turn for home, and even sometimes you get horses going, where's the wire? Where's the wire? Oh, there it is.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it's a tricky track, and the thing as an announcer I had to get used to when I came here was I spent those 7 years calling races at Remington Park. That's a normal 1 mile track with a 7 furlong turf course. And when they hit the top of the stretch, they still have about a quarter mile to go. At Delta, the quarter mile pole is going into the far turn. So, I had to catch myself when I first came here because I'm just starting to get rolling. Oh, there's the line. Whoops, I better wrap it up, So here you got to be on your toes.
And talking about starting day, opening day on Tuesday, Be Connected Stakes, the feature, but really a full card. You see also eligibles in the vast majority of the races. I think for Louisiana racing, getting back going at Delta Downs has to be important for everybody.
Oh, it really is. And, with COVID going on and all that, and by the way, we are having fans here. I know Fairgrounds sent out a press release the other day that they weren't allowing fans this season, but New Orleans, a big city, is a little more of a hot spot for that. Out in Vinton, if you've ever been here, it's a small, you drive to Delta and you go, where am I going? You're out in the middle of the country. And all of a sudden you see 2 hotel towers and you see a track and lights and a casino, and kind of blows you away. But we're out in a place where you can get outside. The apron is big. The paddock area is large, so you can get away from people and social distance. And the nice thing about Delta, have either of you ever been here, by the way?
I was trying to map out a trip before the world broke where I could potentially knock out Sam Houston, Delta, and Fairgrounds in one go. Still might do that after the world repairs itself a little bit, but haven't been there yet.
Yeah, well,
I have been to the I was going to say, Don, I've been to the casino when because racing wasn't going when I went there a few years ago. Okay. Just happened to be in the area. So unfortunately didn't get a chance to experience the racing, but something I look forward to, and a track I definitely watch and wager regularly.
Yeah. Well, the reason I mention that is because when you go to the track apron, unlike any track I've been to, and I think I counted one time, I've been to 30 some odd racetracks, not as many as some other guys, but the track apron is really banked. When you go from the track level, it's really steep, not steep. You're not going to fall down, but it's not flat. So when you stand there, if you just go a few feet up from the rail, you can see the whole track. It's only 6 furlongs. You can see the horses all the way around the track. I have a best friend over in Texas who comes over and watches races all the time, and he calls it intimate. It's an intimate setting because it's so small, yet you have that elevated apron where you can just see everything. So it's a great view. I'm a little partial to it because I've been here so long, but I think you'd like it. People really enjoy this track. Once they come visit, they come back. And that's one thing about social media and everything. On Twitter, I've got, I think, 5,200 followers. I've got nearly 2,300 on YouTube. And a lot of these people that I've met, they have made the trip here from New York and Florida and California and up north. And when they come here and visit and spend a night or two back when we're night racing, they're so impressed by it and they enjoy it so much that they make multiple trips here. So I've made a lot of lifetime friends just through social media and people that have come by and visited.
Delta Downs, I know, has gotten rave reviews from horsemen shipping in. We mentioned the Delta Downs Jackpot, which for a couple of years was a big race that drew a number of very talented horses. Golden Sense immediately coming to mind. And it seems as though horsemen had rave reviews of the facility when shipping in. Obviously, you're shipping in A-plus caliber horses that, in the case of Golden Sense, would wind up winning a couple of Breeders' Cup races. So rave reviews for Delta. We're all pulling for Delta Downs this season. Starts on Tuesday. You're going to want to wager on this product. Big fields. JD mentioned a lot of also eligibles. That's the norm. The racing office does a tremendous job, not just carding races, but carding the right races and making sure those races fill. And you'll see some pretty darn good horses down there as well. We'll go into
and I will say, sorry, Andrew, cut you off. Didn't mean to cut you off, but Don mentioned 9 race cards. So early pick 4, race 1. The pick 5 starts in race 5. The late pick 4 starts in race 6. So something to keep in mind as you're following the racing there. The 3 big multi-race wagers at Delta Downs: race 1, race 5, and race 6.
Thank you, JD. Exactly. I was going to ask about that, but thank you. That's awesome. I appreciate you.
Hey, you guys mentioned the talent of horses that come in here. I just want to, just because I looked at it and I did the line, and it was hard to do the line, and I'm sure I'll get criticism over it. But next Saturday's Delta Mile Stakes, $100,000 back on jackpot day. It used to be $250,000. Yeah. And people like Baffert and Pletcher have brought in, horses for that. Next Saturday, I just put up a video tonight of the Robertino Diodoro barn is sending 2 horses in that race. One of them is Pioneer Spirit, who won the 5th season at Oaklawn last year and a couple other big races. They claimed him for $150,000 at Churchill last November. He's going to be in the race. He's made almost $900,000. Stevens Answers made nearly $500,000, won this race last year. He'll be in there. Hunka Burnin' Love for Carl Broberg will be in there, and he's made a ton of money, and his speed figures are off the chart. And a horse who has won 7 out of 10 races over this track and won 2 graded races last year, including one at Churchill Downs, Masito Rojo, will also be in that field, and he's made almost $900,000. So next Saturday's feature is a barn burner, and I challenge you to try to write a line for that one with those kind of horses in there.
No, I'm good. I'll leave that to you, and I'll just complain about it.
That's gonna be race 8 on Saturday, post time 5:07 Eastern, 4:07 Central. There at Delta Downs. A good field drawn, and we've got a full field, 11 horses. Obviously, 10 will go. One also eligible in that one.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so we are going to transition now into our final thoughts segment, where usually we give our guests the floor right away. They're able to expound on whatever they'd like. I need to ask for this story because even a couple of years later, it's a really good story. A couple of years ago, you were very proud of this. You bought a drone.
Yeah.
You bought the drone.
Oh, I know where you're going with it. Yeah.
And you flew your drone where, Don?
Into my neighbor's roof. Yeah.
How did that happen?
It was not a big fancy $1,000 drone. This was my learning process. Okay. This was the first drone, the baby drone. Yeah.
So you're
I've had 3 drones. Okay. I flew that one into the roof. Thanks for outing me on that, by the way. I had to go over there and sheepishly ask for it back. And it was actually in the trash. They had just that day had gotten it off the roof somehow, or it fell down, and they had put it was on the top of the trash when you open the lid. And I said, okay, thank you. And I kind of just went back home, felt really bad about it, got another drone, learned how to fly it, got really good at it, was walking around the neighborhood flying it with my wife one night. We were walking the dog and got it up a little too high. Again, it was a little better drone, but still not a professional drone, and didn't have GPS, and it got away from me, and it's somewhere in this neighborhood. I don't know where it's at. It flew off. And I never saw it again. We keep looking in trees for it. But anyway, so I've lost 2 drones. My 3rd drone now is a professional one. It hooks up to 17 satellites in the sky. I've taken some pictures from my YouTube channel, and in fact, I need to get it back out. But the FAA says I have 30 days from, I think it was yesterday or the day before when I got the email, to renew my registration. So I need to do that. Costs all of $5. Woo. So I need to get that re-registered and then take it out in the mornings. But I'm a little leery. I can fly it around the track, but they make me call the surveillance department before I put it up in the air, because I did it one time and didn't call them, and they started panicking. They said, "There's this orange thing flying around. What is it? Something flying around the track." And so the GM called me and said, "Hey, I don't mind you doing that, but please call surveillance and let them know, so when they're looking at the cameras, they don't freak out when this thing flies around." So I need to get that back up there again. But thanks for calling me out, Andrew. I really appreciate that.
It's why I'm here, Don.
Yeah, I know.
You've got some really good stuff on your YouTube channel with the drones. I was looking at that and I'm like, wait a minute. He had a thing a couple of years ago. And then as it turned out, a couple of days ago when we're lining up this show, it popped up on my Facebook memory feed, the Aiello bomb that I did, where I dubbed in Pete Aiello's "No Antics of Any Kind" crash.
Yeah,
and there we go with the antics.
There we go.
By the way, that's called foreshadowing, kids. We will have Pete on in a couple of weeks. I will be asking him many questions about that race call. If you've got questions for me, tweet me at @Andrew Champagne, tweet JD at Horse Tickets. If you're tweeting Pete, at Announcer Pete, and make sure you mention King Elliott. He loves it.
You go.
Okay, so that's my final thought segment. I wanted to give you the floor to tell that story because I think it's a fantastic story.
All right, a little embarrassing, but I'll take it. What's wrong with self-deprecating humor?
It's funny. It's that, and I think a lot of people understand that too, because there isn't a single person out there watching this that hasn't mishandled some equipment somewhere to where it has backfired on them in hilarious fashion.
Oh, and it's a sick feeling. When that thing gets away and you can't control it, that is sick. Oh, he's the one who does it, huh? Okay.
Funny. Anyway, Don, kidding aside, though, I really do want to give you the floor. The floor is yours coming up to Delta Downs later this week, a couple of days from now, actually. And I know we're really excited about it. Just judging by the tone of your voice and the enthusiasm you have for the product, sounds like you're really excited as well.
I really am. This is a daytime card. I haven't done this for 20 years, daytime racing. When I was at Remington and starting out, we did daytime racing. And then we got lights in 2000. So I had them for about 3 years at night there, and I've had 17 years here. So day-to-day daytime racing is going to be something new for me, but I'm excited about it. There's just something, old-fashioned about racing during the day that's kind of cool and nostalgic. That's going to be cool. I go out in the mornings, as you said, Twitter, my Horseman Don YouTube channel. I've really gotten into that. I think I've got nearly 400 videos on there now, interviews and insights. By the way, that video I put up tonight was about the Diodoro horses, and I interviewed both jockeys and the assistant trainer. So if you want to hear some more about those horses and watch them on the track, they had a 4 furlong workout the other day, so check that out. But that's something I really started. I got the YouTube channel in 2013. I really didn't put much on there till 2016, and at that point I had an iPhone 6 Plus, and I said, hey, you can take video with this. Hey, you can learn to edit. Hey, and I started getting just consumed with it. And I learned how to edit video just off my iPhone. And then I said, well, I got to get a camera. Well, my daughter's a professional photographer, so that kind of helped. And I've always been into photography, and I actually have an art degree right out of high school. So I was going to be a commercial artist. So I like, that's a little known fact there. But anyway, I like pictures and art and color and all that kind of stuff. So when you see my Twitter account, you'll see all kinds of artsy, horse photos out of the gate and training in the morning. I've been going out there at 7 o'clock every morning the last 3 weeks. So I've got some great video and stuff like that. But anyway, in 2016, I started doing interviews and putting things up, learned how to do that, bought some cameras. Now I have 3 cameras, 10 lenses, 3 GoPros, a drone, like you mentioned. So that's become a passion of mine. So if you want to watch those videos and check it out, go to Horseman Don on YouTube, and please subscribe and hit the thumbs up, leave comments. All that stuff helps the YouTube algorithm. And I know you guys are growing a channel right here, so I wish you all the luck. But if I wasn't calling races and doing that stuff, I would be a photographer, a videographer. I love to interview. I was the kid in school that always had my hand up asking questions, and everybody be going, come on, we want to go to break. Don's asking another question, So I love interviewing. And so I do that with the jockeys and the trainers, and I'll interview a horseshoer, a vet, a groom. The backside kitchen person. I don't care. I'll interview anybody. I love it. I'm interested in people's lives. So if you want to check out the Horseman Don channel, I'd say that's my biggest passion right now.
One-man marketing machine, folks. You thought I was kidding at the top of the show. You know for sure I am not kidding now.
I like to stay busy. Yeah,
for sure. JD, your final thought for the week.
I was going to say, we're having a bunch of announcers on, and I'm giving advice to Dawn, and I'm giving advice to future announcers. Peter Barry last week promised to give King Elliott the fake racehorse of Andrews and also his cat a shout out on a race call. And not only he couldn't wait. The first race Mountaineer had back, he actually had a diatribe about it before they loaded into the gates.
Oh my gosh.
So please don't humor Andrew with that stuff. No. Please, I'm begging
King
you.
Elliott. Okay, let me make a note here. Okay. All right, there we go.
That was fun video, and we both happened to be watching that race and catching that, and obviously,
that's fantastic.
Thanks, Peter. Appreciate it.
Peter's an awesome guy. My other final thoughts. Obviously, we've got a lot of announcers coming along, so we'll be kind of releasing those as we go on Twitter. But we're really happy for having Dawn on and getting Delta back to racing. And you mentioned the normal schedule, but next week's a little different. It's going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday at Delta Downs.
Right.
And
only the first week, right?
Yeah, and the overnights are already out all the way through Saturday. So if you guys want to go ahead and dive in, you've got enough information to do that right now. So that's about all I've got on it. Andrew, just really excited for Delta Downs to get going next week.
We can't wait.
Delta Downs the source of a couple of really nice scores for me. I remember right after I moved from New York to California and I had started working for HRTV. HRTV would always carry the first couple of races of Delta Downs and they go, okay, oh, there's a pick 4 starting in race number 1. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and then you realize, wait a minute. Because of the pool sizes and the number of combinations you can have, it's not unusual, by the way, at Delta Downs to have a 4-race sequence where you have 36, 38, sometimes even 40 entries.
Right.
I'm not kidding. The racing office does a tremendous job filling these races. And as a result, you can have pick 4 sequences with horses that don't pay a ton of money to win. A couple of 4-to-1 shots, a 7-to-2, a 5-to-2, whatever. It comes back paying $200. And you're going, wait, what?
Yeah,
this doesn't seem right. But then you look in your balance and you go, oh, yes, it is right. Thank
it does
you,
work.
Yeah. We really appreciate it. But, it's a fun
Well, we also have
track
rolling daily doubles. We added those a few years ago. And I know a lot of guys, they'll play pick 4s or pick 3s, and they'll play the doubles within the pick 4s and pick 3s. If they get one knocked out, they hit 2 doubles or they hit a pick 3, if they're in sequence. And sometimes you look at them and you're like, wow, why did the 3 pay so much? You catch one right horse and it can really blow up the ticket.
No kidding. That's for darn sure. And every once in a while, you can wind up making a nice score without investing a ton of money. You find a Broberg horse at 1 to 100. That horse wins. You get a price home later that winds up paying even bigger in the multi-race exotics. And you could potentially be very surprised by what those sequences wind up paying. So we're really enthusiastic about Delta Downs coming back. Opening day coming up on Tuesday. Looking forward to hearing the man at the bottom of your screen right now, Don Stevens, on the call. And again, Don, thank you so much for coming on and having some fun with us on Champagne and JD this week.
I'll tell you what, I had a blast. Anytime you want me to have me back on, I'd be glad to do it. And I hope your YouTube channel blows up and does fantastic.
We appreciate that very much. Thank you. JD didn't publicize this yet, but he will be interviewing Jim Miller from Hawthorne next week. I will be off for various different reasons, anniversary, birthday, Thanksgiving, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot going on here in Concord, California next week. But JD, I know will do a tremendous job. Jim Miller, incredibly insightful. I have 2 requests. JD, you already know one of them to end the show with. The second one is I want you to ask about the pizza bet that he made with a member of the Carruthers family. I'm not sure if it was Matt or Ren, but it wound up with Chicago pizza being shipped on dry ice somewhere, and it's a pretty funny story.
One. That's a good one.
No. I'll try not to ask Jim too much about college baseball because I feel like we're just going to.
Good idea. There. Really good idea.
So we're gonna try to stick to horse racing, but we're both college baseball guys, so that's going to be tough. But no, that's going to be exciting next week, and we may even have a guest host. I don't know. We'll just leave you tuned.
Ooh.
Oh boy.
That's called a tease, guys. That's called a tease.
Yes, a tease, foreshadowing, whatever you want to call it.
A way to bring somebody Andrew doesn't like on the show. I mean, whatever you want to. I'm kidding.
Well, JD better deliver on this.
There are only a couple of people I don't like, so that's a very short list.
We'll see if we can make it happen.
Well, gee, thanks. I appreciate that. And hopefully when I come back in 2 weeks to interview Pete, we don't have to worry about picking up carnage and rubble and all sorts of stuff. Anyway, Don, thank you so much. We are so happy to see Delta Downs back on the schedule. We're pumped to see that Delta Downs has rebuilt after Hurricane Laura hit because seriously, those pictures, I can't imagine living through something like that. My goodness. So
but don't forget, we had Hurricane Delta 6 weeks after Hurricane Laura. Hurricane Delta.
Yeah.
We had 2 hurricanes. We didn't just have one. Now, the second one didn't do a whole lot. It was a rain event, but I'm telling you, we had 2 within 6 weeks, plus all the junk going on this year. So we've had to overcome a lot.
And can I take the low-hanging fruit here?
What's that?
When it rains, it pours.
Yes, exactly. You
Waka,
got that.
Waka.
Wah, wah.
Thank you. Anyway, seriously though, Don, thank you so much for taking part of your Friday night.
No problem.
Come talk to us about Delta Downs. We're pumped for the upcoming season, and we wish you guys the best of luck. For JD Fox, I am Andrew Champagne. Thank you so much for watching Champagne and JD this week. If you like what you see, hit that subscribe button down on the bottom of the screen. Give us a like, give us a comment. Find us on social media. We're both very responsive to where it's almost default. JD, you want to take us home with the catchphrase?
Everybody stay safe out there. Stay off the beaches.